Ohio Senate candidates Tim Ryan and JD Vance went head-to-head in a debate last night. We're going to break down some standout moments. First, Democratic Representative Tim Ryan called out GOP challenger JD Vance on January 6th.
During the insurrection, when they tried to overthrow the government, beat him upside the head with lead pipes, spray him with pepper spray. The one video we saw, the cop got jammed into the door, right? JD Vance raised money for the legal defense fund of the insurrectionists. This is the kind of extremism, JD, that we wholly reject. You have video posts. Don't even try to deny it. We got your Twitter posts and everything else. Everybody's seen it. He said, help these guys with their legal defense fund. Now, can you imagine one guy saying out of one side of his mouth he's pro-cop, and out of the other side of his mouth he's raising money for the insurrectionists who were beating up the Capitol Police?
Vance then expressed his view on whether he believes in any exceptions for abortions.
Look, I've always believed in reasonable exceptions. This is a misrepresentation of my view, but let's hear it from me, not from Congressman Ryan. I absolutely think the 10-year-old girl, the case that we've, of course, heard a lot about, an incredibly tragic situation. I mean, look, I've got a 9-year-old baby girl at home. I cannot imagine what that's like for the girl, for her family. God forbid something like that would happen. I have said repeatedly on the record that I think that girl should be able to get an abortion if she and her family so choose to do so. But let's talk about that case. Because why was a 10-year-old girl raped in our community, raped in our state in the first place? The thing the media and Congressman Ryan, they talk about this all the time. The thing they never mentioned is that poor girl was raped by an illegal alien, somebody that should have never been in this state in the first place. You voted so many times against border wall funding, so many times for amnesty, Tim. If you had done your job, she would have never been raped in the first place. Do your job on border security. Don't lecture me about opinions I don't actually have.
I mean, what has JD Vance actually said about abortion? Is it not true that is it true that he has always supported exceptions for abortion? Because I think a lot of people are kind of hitting that line now because they saw the backlash around Roe.
Yeah, the clearer backpedal was Blake Masters, the Arizona Republican candidate, who took down, I think, changed what his campaign website said, put out an ad. Republicans are, reaping what they sowed here and again, to be clear, it was very important to many social conservative Republican voters to get this win on abortion. This was an important policy outcome, and I think tactically it is perfectly defensible to take the position that we will suffer a short-term political loss if it means, the point of politics is not just to win at politics, right? It's to influence the world the way you want. It's to influence the policies of our government. This is a policy, regardless of what you think about it, it makes sense to take a political hit to implement this, to have this policy advantage. But that is clearly what happened. And I would have expected JD Vance to be a pretty extremely pro-life person. He's saying that he's always supported some kind of rape exception, or it's maybe that's true.
There's also, he equivocated. He declined to comment on whether or not he would support Lindsey Graham's federal ban on abortion. And I think, again, we talked about this a little bit in an earlier segment, non-statements or statements that allude to the fact that something is settled law are not especially credible now that we've seen what happened with the overturning of Roe and the Dobbs decision. So I do think people are right to have some concerns, regardless of what people's stated opinions are, about whether or not, if actually in office, they would increasingly ratchet up for more draconian barriers to abortion, including barriers that could potentially prevent someone like that horrible 10-year-old case from actually getting an abortion.
Right. Ohio has become a red state. It's a Republican state. I don't know what the average view of an Ohio citizen is on the abortion question. They support abortion in some cases, some limits on abortion, right?
Most Republicans frankly wanted Roe to be maintained, right?
My point being that Tim Ryan and JD Vance's views on this question might both be outside what the modal Ohioan is.
Well, what
on
are
the
Tim
abortion
Ryan's views?
question.
I mean, Tim Ryan isn't exactly, Gloria Steinem here. He's not exactly like some
Well, is that
left-wing
true?
crusader.
Does he support any limits on abortion?
He was an extremely unappealing candidate from a progressive point of view. I spoke to Morgan Harper, who was this progressive challenger, who got absolutely no support from the Democratic
true on
Party, was thrown under the bus.
That might be true on sort of democratic social, economic issues or something. I don't know.
Well, economic issues, economic issues. The whole point here is I felt very uninspired watching both of those clips because who cares?
Yeah.
What does it have to do with anything? I'm not going to vote for someone, not that I live in Ohio, but my family does. I'm not going to vote for someone on the basis that, JD Vance, cultural issue. He raised money for someone who hurt a cop at 1/6. I'm sorry. If I'm a Democrat voting, I'm a progressive, so I'm not exactly feeling a lot of warm and fuzzies for cops.
Right.
Some of us haven't forgotten Uvalde. Some of us are looking at, there was this new poll that went around that should, when you just ask people, do you think that the police who have gotten all this funding and not lowered crime should instead have some of that money diverted to social services and things that are shown to minimize crime? Majorities of people, including Republicans, support that. And guess what that is called? That's called to fund the police. As long as you don't use that language, everybody supports it. Like, that's the world that we actually live in, right? And yet we have Democratic politicians trying to run and get Democratic voters on board, or I guess maybe just conservative voters on board by saying this guy was mean to a cop?
Well, okay, his thinking is all the Democrats are voting for him anyway. How does he chip away at some moderate Republicans, some independents?
I hope all the Democrats are voting for him, because people are going to have to turn out. He needs people in Democratic areas of Ohio, like places like Cleveland and Cincinnati, where my family lives. I bet you money none of my family members ever heard of Tim Ryan and aren't going any. I mean, not my immediate family, but my extended family. No one's enthusiastic about Tim Ryan, especially with that kind of rhetoric that doesn't foreground how he's going to economically help people in a distressed state, people of all colors, in a state that has been decimated by the kind of trade policies that Donald Trump talked about at length. Industries closed down, hollow shells of a city. When my mother was growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, it was the 6th biggest city in America, and it is far from that today. And I would like to see more commentary from both gentlemen about how they're going to turn that state of affairs around.
Right, and that's something JD Vance has talked about at great length. His whole book is kind of about that.
No, it's not.
It's about the hollowing out of Appalachia. It blames the Appalachian people for their own problems. But,
Yes, which is not the kind of, I'm sorry, systemic critique that people need. The Appalachians are some of the most independent, hardworking, truly like labor-oriented and heroic people in the entire country. And I think it's a real disgrace that he characterized them that way and was willing to throw his own people under the bus in that way when they have been hit hard by any number of economic and social policies that devastated them as a community.
Look, obviously, I agree those are the main things they should be talking about. I don't think it's crazy to call out JD Vance because to win, this is the problem Republicans face. To win in the Republican primary, you have to take positions on sort of like MAGA issues like January 6th that are so unappealing to a general electorate that then it's tactically smart to make for the Democrat to make you pay for that later.
Yeah, look, I get it. I just hope, and obviously we just watched a couple of clips there, but I would hope that the most clippable, salacious, inspiring part of a debate like that was someone championing how they're going to help improve the lives of people who live in Ohio.
I would not expect that from the candidates for office at any time, but there you have it. More Rising right after this.